Oh. No, I really get these confused a lot. Yeah, dude, what's up? Dude, Romeo's posted this thing earlier on the 22 thread, and I thought it related to that conversation we had. I think it was yesterday when you were streaming. It was either yesterday. Pretty sure it was yesterday. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. He posted. What did he post? How do I make this pop out? So he got this idea for the 22 Ito intervals. Yeah, it was just the interval. Yeah, but it still gave me an idea. Um, but basically, like, he went in and he named all the intervals, which a lot of people name the 22 Ito intervals like this. Hey, Danny, what's up? So, this is kind of normal, except for what's happening in the middle, like around the perfect fourth to perfect fifth region. So, I personally don't label my seconds and sevenths this way, exact, but it's almost the same. But yeah, what he did from perfect fourth to perfect fifth was really interesting. Now, I've heard these terms before, but I just didn't really think about applying them to 22. But so what his idea was, make the perfect fourth a sub minor four, and then as you go up, so basically like the region from perfect fourth to perfect fifth. So the perfect fourth in 22 is totally unambiguous, so is the perfect fifth. But then like you have an up four, then you have this pure tritone, which is the hardest interval to like name for some reason. With that, because you like can't name it without using a down sharp. Well, you couldn't. Now you can. Or I didn't know how to anyway until now. But basically, like if you did the fourths version, you'd have like up four, down sharp four, and if you did the fifths version, you'd have flat five, up flat five, then down five, and those would be the three tritones basically. But like, I didn't have a good naming scheme for these intervals that didn't involve using accidentals, which you might think, well, who cares? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter, but like in 12 equal, like we have an interval notation that doesn't refer to accidentals. We have major, minor, and perfect. And you can refer to all the intervals without using accidentals. But in 22, I have not, until today, come up with any way of naming that 11 out of 22 tritone without using some kind of accidental. Or just calling it a tritone, which is kind of issues of its own. But anyway, this system is sort of interesting. I don't want to go into this too deep, but basically equating subminor 4 with perfect 4 is like definitely an interesting choice. And I kind of understand his reasoning behind it. It's like similar to like Kite's thing about like preserving interval logic and stuff. And basically, like anytime you move by an Ito step, you'll change from subminor to minor, or major to super major, blah blah blah. But anyway, that inspired me to go, oh well. So what he did that was super interesting was he said subminor 4, minor 4, major 4, super major 4. Now I've heard minor 4 and major 4, but I never thought of subminor 4 and super major 4, which is such a simple thing. Like it's such a simple thing. Like why wouldn't you apply that to fourths and fifths? So I was like, oh, well, I guess you could go perfect four, major four. Instead of equating perfect four with sub minor four, just go perfect four, major four, super major four, which would be sub minor five. That way you have a name for the tritone. You can call it super major four or sub minor five. So like I've been calling this major four, the 10 out of 22 interval, like a super four or an up four. But yeah, you could just call it a major four and then call the tritone the super four. And then the next one's augmented four. So if you just went fourths, it'd go perfect, major, super major, augmented. And then if you went down in fifths, it'd be perfect fifth, minor fifth, sub minor fifth, diminished fifth. And that also, you can apply that to chords. So I went through and I added a new naming system for 22. So now we have four completely functional, and I've kind of had this idea for a while as a naming system, and it's not totally original. I've heard other people have told me like the same idea basically, but I haven't seen anyone actually apply it to a tuning and just come up with all the names. So, but basically like, and the other thing is like I don't particularly like it, but I think it could work with all kinds of different tuning systems, including 23 Ito. But this I call a two qualifier. What's a down sharp for? Um, your beef is perfect four and major four. Down sharp four, like in 22 Ito, you have ups and downs. Like they're just part of the basic like note naming scheme. So like you can name 22 Ito notes without it, but it's way better to just use ups and downs. So basically like 3 Ito steps of 22 is sharp. So if you want to move two and like 1 Ito step is up or down. So if you want to go up 1 Ito step in 22, that's up. And if you want to go up 3, it's sharp. But if you want to go up 2, it's down sharp. So the tritone is 2 Ito steps above the perfect fourth and below the perfect fifth. So it's either a down sharp 4 or an up flat 5 is the 11 Ito. I mean the 11 Ito. It is an 11 Ito too, but the 22 Ito tritone. But anyway, yeah. So this is I call this a two qualifier system because you have to specify the quality of both the third and the fifth. But in 22 equal, you could name all the chords based on the quality of the third and the fifth. So it's sort of a different way of thinking about it, kind of not. But yeah, so your subdiminished chord, the Orwell minor, or like what Kite calls a diminished, that would be a sub minor. So you'd always say the name of the third. So like a C, E flat, G flat in a two qualifier system, you could write it as C sub minor diminished fifth, diminished 5, which is a fucking mouthful, but it's there. And then and so on. So you can apply all these names. So there's a first qualifier always applies to the third, so that's the normal one. And then with your basic triads, you don't qualify the fifth. So the basic triads would still look the same. C major would still just be a C, super major would just be a big S, and so on. But for every other chord, basically, you would qualify the fifth. You would specify the quality of the fifth. That's what I mean by qualify. So yeah, so like C sub minor 5. So a sub minor 5 would be a 2 down 5, right? So it would be the same as a up flat 5. So that would be, the utonal diminished, which is also sub minor up flat 5. So anyway, all these chords are written out 4 different ways now. And yeah, this system, and you can treat the extensions exactly as you would in the other system. I don't know how Kite treats extensions exactly, but I think it's more or less just normal. But yeah, you could treat extensions. He actually does weird things with like sevenths and stuff. I don't really like that. But uh, and it's kind of, to me it's really convoluted. But a lot of people do like it. But I don't really. I haven't learned it that well. But yeah. Anyway, you can treat the sevenths as you would in whatever system you like, and then the extensions would be the same. I'm pretty sure in all 4 systems. But yeah, so yeah, basically instead of putting like up 5, down 5, blah blah blah, you would put sub minor 5, minor 5, major 5, blah blah blah. And yeah, and you could apply the same system to like yeah, it's a diminished 5, diminished fifth. Yeah. So there's one diminished fifth and there's one augmented fifth. So those are like, you know, kind of unique instances. And the fifths don't work the same as the thirds. Exactly. So you'd have to know like what is each quality of the fifth. That's why I call it 2 qualifier system, because it does actually kind of it does kind of rationalize things sort of differently, because actually normally in your notation you're basically referring to a type of triad. So like in 12 Ida notation, you're referring to a type of triad, and the flavor of the third and the fifth are implied by the quality of the triad. So like a diminished triad doesn't refer to the third or the fifth. It refers to both the third and the fifth. So a diminished triad is a minor third with a flat 5. And you just are supposed to know that. And then like same thing with an augmented triad. We don't call it a C major sharp 5. We just call it an augmented, because basically it's just you qualify the triad. Um, so that in in that way, I think temperament notation is actually the most similar to standard notation. I just think it throws people off because I introduce new symbols. But I actually think I think the logic is, I mean, some things are definitely different about it. Like the way that chords relate, it's a lot more elaborate. Um, and also the types of terms, like in 12 Ida, we only have terms that refer to size of triads. So diminished, minor, major, augmented, these all refer to size. Whereas in temperament notation, we refer to actual scales as well as size. So it is slightly different in that regard. But yeah, and then in kite notation and traditional notation, basically you just qualify the type of triad and then any modification to the fifth. So the modification to the fifth, basically this always assumes the fifth is perfect. I guess the 2 qualifier is the same way, but the only difference is you would just know that down 5 is a minor 5 and an up flat 5 is a sub minor 5 and diminished 5 is the same. Sharp 5 is the same. I should call this flat 5. That'd be a little cleaner. Let's just call it a flat 5. Because I called the other one sharp 5. I like calling it subdiminished though. But anyway, you know what it's called. Whatever. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're like exactly the same. It's just you're swapping out the ups and downs for a qualifier of the fifth. Yeah. But the thing is that even if you have a system that doesn't use ups and downs, you could still use a two qualifier system. So like in 23 equal, for instance, you could refer to like the Mavilla fifth is a minor fifth and the anirotonic fifth is a major fifth. Or you could say the Mavilla fifth is perfect or whatever. But personally, I would probably go like minor fifth and then major fifth, and then um, those other scale degrees you could yeah, it's just like with up and I mean yeah, it's just ups and downs. It's just replacing the terms with the minor and major and stuff. And then also you can have like shorthand terms. So like if you have a C sub minor, sub minor fifth, you can call it a double sub. Another thing too is like you don't the five is kind of redundant. Like you could just opt to not put the five at all. And if had a single qualifier, it would just be a basic triad. So the fives are a little, but I could see how that could be confusing. Well, not really, actually. Yeah, because if you added extensions, you would put accidentals on the extensions. So basically the five is kind of redundant. I'm just gonna leave it for now, but you could definitely notate all the chords just like without the five on there at all, and it would be fine. Because you would just know the second one would modify the fifth, because these terms would never modify. Well, they would modify seventh though too. I guess yeah, I guess if you were to add the seventh, you would have to like use parentheses or um, use dots or something. Anyway, I still like temperament notation the most, but this is definitely an option that it's free of accidentals and it just works. It's just another option. Um, yeah, so then you'd have like three qualifiers in a row, but you would want to I think you might run into ambiguity when you had like a I guess maybe if you had a seventh chord, you would like have to write out three of them, even if it was like a major seven, because you would want to do like, well, maybe not. Maybe those would be the same, like major seven, minor seven would still be the same, and that oh no, you'd have to do C major, major seven. No, 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 you wouldn't have to actually. But if you wanted a major fifth, yeah, you'd have to be like specific. Yeah, you could just write out all three every time. Yeah, you would want to add the extra qualifier. But I think if you wrote out like C major seven, it could only either mean a C major seven, which is what you want, or it could mean a C major fifth with a seven. But I think you would have to write the five out if you did that. C minor flat five. Well, that'd be diminished, but yeah, C diminished over 11. But yeah, we do. We tend so we, well triads we write as triads, but then alterations. When we alter a triad, we use accidentals, or if we alter, but generally speaking, we don't alter triads. We alter extended chords. So like you don't usually see a chord like C major flat five. But yeah, like in this system you would do that. You could do that. You could do like a C minor flat five. Yeah, in like 22, in like an alternative tuning, you could do that. I mean, we have C minor, 7 flat 5. That's also called half diminished. But yeah, that's a common jazz chord. C minor, 7 flat 5. But it's a seventh chord with the flat 5 as all considered alteration. C major flat 5. C major flat 5 technically exists, but it's generally written as C major sharp 11. C major 7 sharp 11. Because normally you wouldn't have a context where you'd have the natural fourth and the sharp 4. So it's just like, it's one of those things that it's definitely a possible chord. Like you could have a major 7 flat 5, but nobody uses that chord. I mean, I've used that chord, but most people don't use that chord. I'm pretty sure I've used that chord. I've used a lot of fucking weird chords. Yeah, it's in Lydian. But if it's in Lydian, it would be sharp 11. It wouldn't be flat 5. You see what I'm saying? Because that would have... That's the thing about extended chord notation, generally speaking, has a relationship with modes. So, like, when you get into extended chords, usually there's one or two corresponding modes. So, like, a sharp 11, especially major 7 sharp 11, like, tends to correspond with Lydian. So sometimes people actually notate that as a Lydian chord, which I like to do that. Like, traditionally speaking, you would call it like a major 7 sharp 11. But basically, like, modes and chords are interchangeable. So, like, actually, like, my friends and I who like do kind of jazzy stuff, like, we'll call a chord a Lydian dominant, even though that's the name of a mode. Like, we know what chord we're talking about. It's a C7 with a sharp 11. So, like, you can just call it a Lydian dominant chord because that's the scale that works with it, and it's the same sound. It's mostly the same notes. So there's some ambiguity there, but like not enough for it to really make a huge difference. So, and that's the other thing about the notation stuff, where it's like you almost can't take it too seriously because you don't really know what conventions are gonna like arise over time, and like the actual practice of the music is gonna inform the language like more than anything else. Maybe not more than anything else, but it's gonna have a huge influence on like how people talk about things. So like right now, like the way everybody's looking at this is like, so what's like a perfectly logical system or like perfectly comprehensive system, or like what's the one that I just think is the best for whatever arbitrary or subjective reasons, you know. But, you know, in the end, we don't know what it's going to turn into. But like right now, it kind of doesn't matter. Like like right now, it's better just have something. It's just better to have something that works. So like everything I'm doing, I'm just trying to make sure that it's a system that you can describe all the chords with. As long as it describes all the chords, it's good. And after that, it's just a matter of personal preference. So like I have 4 systems here, and they all work. And I prefer the temperament notation because it's just intuitive to me. It's the one I have to think about the least. But the other 3 work. Kite notation is the one I know the least well, but I could learn it. It could become intuitive. And then the traditional notation, I think, is just fine. It's very clear. I think it's probably the best for people who don't know anything about 22 Ito, although they would still have to learn stuff because they don't know what down sharp means. And then the 2 qualifier is almost interchangeable with it. It just gets rid of the accidentals. But yeah, in order of preference, I'd probably go temperament, traditional, kite, and then 2 qual. But I see the appeal of all of them in different contexts. The biggest thing about the kite notation is that it's tuning agnostic. You could do a 2 qual system that's tuning agnostic, but this one is not. It just like depends on how you qualify the thirds and the fifths. But yeah, kite notation is basically traditional notation, but tuning agnostic. Well, it's not actually. Tuning agnostic is kind of oversimplifying it because it's actually it's a pure Pythagorean notation. So it's applying Pythagorean logic to every tuning system. So it's tuning comprehensive. It's not actually tuning agnostic because it actually privileges Pythagorean. And it actually makes the most sense in Pythagorean tunings. And basically in tunings like 22, it already doesn't make sense because it's super Pyth. That's why I'm especially concerned with this app you're making. The point of it is training people how to think about composing with the chords. My influence might never only make people call chords a farbukia, a bukia chord or something. I mean, I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess so. But yeah. But yeah, you could apply this 2 qualifier thing to 23 as well. Because you would have all of these. So like 23 has 4 different quality of third. And dude, I was doing this earlier and like 23 is like the worst thing to look at. Because like one Ito step is sharp or flat. So like these chords are just like egregious. Like writing them out. I kind of wish there was ups and downs for 23, which there is, but it's 46. So I actually I think if I ever really learn 23, I'm just gonna learn 46. Because you can use ups and downs, and this would be so much cleaner with ups and downs. But yeah, the only one that's weird is like the double subminor, but they're kind of like semaphore. They both stack to make a like a major fourth. It's kind of like the perfect fifth or perfect fourth. So it's kind of not really a triad. So 15 Ito has this, 19 Ito has this, and 19 Ito it's semaphore. This is kind of like a semi-fourth. I mean, it's a semi-fourth thing. So this you could express as like C, E double flat, E triple flat, F or whatever, instead of triple flat, 2 triple flats. But that one I don't know. I just took double diminished fifth. You could also get rid of this by sticking a perfect fifth in here, like calling the minor fifth a perfect fifth. Then this would just be diminished fifth. This would be sub minor fifth. This would be minor fifth. That would be perfect fifth. But I went ahead and just did minor and major because it's a dual fifth system. Just kind of made sense. But yeah, you could apply it to any tuning. It's really not even that hard to do. It's way harder to figure out. It would be way harder to figure out a temperament notation for 23 because I don't know what the fuck temperaments are in there except Mozilla. I think 23 is in dual tritones, dual fifths, and dual minor sixths. So that would mean it would have dual major thirds too. Which makes sense. It's got like a major third and a sub major third. But I think it's just convenient to just call the 23 sub major third a major third and call the undecimal major third the super major third. I mean, some people consider it a super major. It's 417 and it's pretty sharp. And then it's kind of weird to have a tuning that only has like sub major and super major quality and no actual major. Although really like if, like 22 Ito, for instance, it kind of has sub minor and super minor, and then for the thirds, and then it kind of has I mean, it even sort of tends towards sub major. It's major triad. But yeah, like the seconds too. It really kind of goes like I call the second sub minor, minor, neutral, major, but the major second is almost super major. I mean, it's very wide. So, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, something you could think about with your app. It's definitely an option. Like I would think for you, probably you'd want to do one of these. If it was me, I would just stick with this. But if I did like a 22 Ito specific one, I'd put this one in there. I'd probably just put them both in there. I kind of I think of temperament notation as being something that could expand organically to be like, you know, something you use in a lot of different tunings and something that can bridge tunings. Like we kind of saw that with 19 Ito a little bit. And 15 Ito as well. Fitzgerald did these in 15. And then, what's the 19 Ito one? Put that in my other folder. Where do I have it in here? Put it right here. Does sound elegant. Oh, what are you referring to? The temperament notation? Because I do agree with that, if that's what you're saying. Yeah, the 19 Ito chords we also gave temperament names to. And like the thing is that in 19 and 22 both have magic and sense of magic. And then 19 and 15 both have semaphore. So like we did these listening comparisons and we compared the triads from all three of these tunings, and like magic and sense of magic bridged 22 and 19, and you could hear they were like similar I don't know if you saw that. Actually, I sent somebody the link to that. I could show you what I mean. Like, if the chord has the same name, it basically is going to sound similar. Just like, and that's the thing that. So like, 15 and 19 both have this semaphore triad. No, they don't sound that similar there. But basically, like 15 and 19 sound kind of similar, like on the dark end of the spectrum. And then, so here the like, how was this chord? There was, these are the diminished chords. The utonal diminished. Oh, this is in all three tunings, actually. The utonal diminished. And then here, I don't know if they sound similar or not. Yeah, you can hear 15 and 19 sound a little more similar. And then once you get into like the basic triads, 15 and 22 sound kind of similar because they both have sharp fifths. So basically, like on the dark end, like in the diminished chords and the scrunchier chords, like 19 and 15 have more in common. And then in the middle, 15 and 22 have more in common. And then on the bright end, 19 and 22 have more in common. It's kind of interesting. It's like when you go up top, like 19 and 22 both have a magic triad. Here's 15, here's 19. So 19 and 22 are almost indistinguishable with the magic triad, and they're called the same thing. So it's kind of interesting. And then like they both have sense of magic as well, and all of those inversions. So those are not as similar, but they're pretty similar. And they both have sense of magic, sense of major, and sense of minor. So yeah, they both have sense of minor or sense of major, which 15 doesn't have. So you notice in that zone, like super major third, minor third, 15 sounds totally different from 19 and 22. Also because 15 doesn't really have super major third. It's like, I don't even know why I put it in there. But, because it's the same as a fourth. But, yeah, 19 and 22 sound almost indistinguishable. And the chords have the same name. So, because they're both doing this temperament notation. Anyway, you get the point. Which is that, like, if you do apply this to different tunings, like you can establish some sense of continuity. But you know that requires actually like kind of looking at the different tunings and like the different temperaments and how the chords relate to those temperaments and stuff. I think some of them would be a little more straightforward than others, but the other thing is like the more of these that we do, the easier it'll get over time. When they have the same name in most of the other notations, that is possible, but not necessarily the case. So like in 19 and 22, for instance, they wouldn't in a lot of cases. So the ones that would have the same name would be the basic triads. But since we're using accidentals, if we use accidentals to qualify the fifth, 19 Edo only has sharps and flats. It doesn't have ups and downs at all. So if you did a chord like magic, in 22 Edo, it would be major up 5. But in 19 Edo, it would be major sharp 5. So they wouldn't look the same at all. And in fact, major sharp 5 and 22 would be a totally different chord. So in fact, that's not even a triad in 22. So that would be one instance where they wouldn't. In fact, I think in most, since 22 has ups and downs and 19 doesn't, I think there would be a lot of discrepancies. The obvious exception being the basic triads. But yeah, even when you got into like diminished chords, your diminished triad, your O-tonal diminished triad in 19 would be what is it again? I think it's just diminished. Where is it? Minor, subminor. So it's diminished. There is a classic diminished in 19 too. So diminished would be flat 5. So in 19 it would be a minor double flat 5 would be an O-tonal diminished, but in 22 it's a minor up flat 5. Up flat, not double flat at all. So like double flat would be completely different. So yeah, there would be some pretty glaring discrepancies. And even if you did like a 2 qualifier system, unless you were to tweak it to make a special effort to avoid this kind of stuff, it would have similar issues because like in 19, you would only have a perfect fifth, a diminished fifth, and a double diminished fifth. But hold on, let me look at 19 real quick. How did the fifths region work? It would not be the same though. I just know that already. I mean, there'd be a lot different. So yeah, like it would really only work out in the middle where it would be consistent. So yeah, that actually is like a nice advantage of the temperament notation is that it can show you these connections that aren't really obvious when you're just notating accidentals and providing alterations and stuff. So 19, you have 2 tritones and then a fifth and a fourth, I believe. So you have perfect fourth, augmented fourth, diminished fifth. So yeah, you would have perfect fifth, diminished fifth, double diminished fifth. So that would be it for your triads, and then you would have sharp 5 and possibly double sharp 5. So in 22, on the other hand, you would have minor fifth, subminor fifth, blah blah blah. So yeah. You could replace diminished fifth with minor fifth and subminor fifth for double diminished in 19 as well, but and you could explore that, but then like it would be a weird thing where like you have a mean tone diminished triad, and then you would suddenly be calling that a minor 5. You would have weird stuff like that, even though it's functionally identical to a diminished triad. So like there are some weird things that you have. What you're hearing is we need to throw out the entire system and just do numbers. I mean, you can do that. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I think it's fine. Like there's like some to me there's kind of a power and a utility to naming the sounds, and I think when you label the chords and you identify the sounds, you can, that ultimately relates to function, and you can kind of draw connections between like sounds of groups of notes and like what possibilities exist in using those compositionally. So for me, it's just useful to like organize my thoughts about these groups of notes. Whereas if I'm just thinking in pure numbers, that doesn't really communicate quality. It doesn't communicate function. Whereas organizing chords into sounds and another cool thing about temperament notation is that like all of your augmented family triads, it shows how those relate. And in fact, even on the others, it shows how chords relate a lot in interesting ways. Because like some of the chords, some triads invert to other triads. Actually, I saw you were talking on xenharmonic alliance about like with suspended chords. They do this similar thing where like a sus2 and a sus4 and a quartal chord are all inversions of each other. So we conceptualize these as 3 distinct types of chords, but they're also inversions of each other. So a similar thing happens with like augmented types of triads. So in 22, that's magic and sense of magic triads, where like when they invert to other triads, um, which that does not happen in 12 Ito at all, but it does happen in 22 and it happens in 19. So basically, it happens in a lot of tunings. As long as the fifth span is as long as the fifth span is like wider than a perfect fifth, it will invert to another triad. Um, it's frustrating how every single system is basically bound to fail in some regard. Like if you want to name seventh chords in temp notation, you need to memorize hundreds and hundreds of chords. What? No, you don't. You don't at all. This naming seventh chords in temp notation is really straightforward. All you do is add the seventh. So like in 22 Ito, there's only I consider there as being four qualities of seventh. So the seventh is either minor, neutral, major, or super major, and that's it. So you just append the type of seventh to the type of triad, and that's it. And so with that, you can name 64 chords. So you have 16 triads and then multiply that by 4. So that's 64 names right there. It's not complicated. And then if you want to add extensions, you just add the extensions. It just works normally. So you don't need like a special name for every seventh chord. You just add the seventh. It's not 60. It's not, but the system has a very simple logic. You only have to know. Even if you were in 31, it wouldn't be nearly as complicated. It wouldn't be that complicated. It would be a little more complicated. But like in 31, for instance, you would have 25 types of triads. And I haven't looked at 31 yet, but there may be ways of organizing that information that simplifies it. So, and there may be easier ways of looking at this. Like there could be a better version of like what temperament notation is. Like this could be like an infant form of it. There could be a better way of doing this. But I think this is the idea I'm the most excited by, and that it's the most intuitive to me. Like you're looking at the symbols and you're like, what the hell is this? But like I literally, like, as soon as I came up with this naming system, I understood it in an hour. But literally, like, this is more logical, and this is more logical, and this is more logical, and I have to think so hard about every chord. It's so annoying. But the temperament stuff, I don't have to think about. I know exactly what the chord is, just because I know the name. Like, if you just understand the logic of the notation, it makes sense. It's just like there's a system behind it. I mean, it's kind of intuitive, because like magic chords invert to each other. Sense of magic chords invert to each other. Orwell chords are very similar, as are the diminished chords, blah, blah, blah. So it's like there's this, that you group the chord, you put the chords in groups, basically. There's a diminished family, there's an augmented family, there's the basic triads, which is like subminor, minor, major, super major, and then there's 4 hybrid chords, which are your Orwell major, Orwell minor, sense of major, and sense of minor. And they're like the weirdest chords in 22, and arguably the coolest chords in 22. But oh, the screen did. Why does it keep happening? So annoying. But yeah, I mean, I I've come up with all these other systems, basically in response to criticism, or not all these, but I've come up with this other system and now this other one. Basically in response to criticism over this, and, this shows that it's possible to do it in other ways. But like even having these other systems, like I disagree with the criticisms. Like I see the utility in having this to like translate stuff, but I don't know. I really don't find this hard. I think it looks scarier than it is. It's really not hard though. Uh, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just see like ways chords relate, blah blah blah. Yeah, so there's a lot of advantages to it, and it can connect tunings. So yeah, just it reveals really. And the other thing is like this stuff already exists. I didn't like make any. I didn't make any of these names up. I didn't invent the temperaments. Like this is stuff that people have been coming up with, for different reasons, for like RTT and stuff. But like this is how people who are into microtonal music already think about these sounds. It's how they already think about these chords to some extent. All I did was added the pluses and minuses and like the major and minor qualifiers, which those are actually kind of the same thing. That was it. So everything else I just got from asking people, how do you think of this chord? What do you think of that chord? So it's literally just taking the existing information about microtonal music and the existing microtonal theory, and it's applying it to chord notation. That's all it is. Yeah, it would help you play music and other tunings when they ship. Yeah, exactly. Like, because 19 has sense of magic and magic, like, when I mess with 19 again, like, I'm going to be applying, well, it has the utonal and otonal diminished too, so it shares, like, a ton of chords in common with 22. So, like, I can go to 19 now, and I can apply everything I've learned from 22 to 19, and I can kind of see like, how does this work in 19? What's different about this in 19? Like, I've done that in tunings, like just looking at diatonic scales and just looking at like the basic triads, like, oh, it has the major chord sound in this tuning, it has the minor chord sound in that tuning. But when you have like a temperament tuning, you can go, oh, how does the sense of magic chord sound in this tuning? And blah blah blah. And they sound similar because they share a temperament. They're like tuned, they're just like slightly differently tuned, but they're overall the same sound. Just like a major chord in one tuning, it does sound a little different in another tuning, but it basically evokes the same mood. It functions similarly. Like a major chord is always going to be a tonic functioning chord. If it's not, you've probably given it the wrong name. You know what I mean? And I suspect that we're going to find similar things with sense of magic chords, with Orwell chords, with semaphore triads, stuff like that. So like they just, yeah. And it's kind of like, why burn the whole thing? That's like, I'm kind of against inventing new notation. Like that's sort of, I'm trying, like there is already so much theory. Like I think it's a good use of energy to try to unify, which I like. I like that there's a lot of unification of like JI stuff and Ito stuff. Like you can think about Itos in terms of like limits and stuff. But I think this temperament stuff is, it's like the similar idea, but it's even more specific. It's like the next level of depth, because like actually temperaments and Itos relate more closely even than JI. Like temperament is the bridge between JI and Itos, kind of by definition, I guess. But like, since we've organized different intervals and sounds and generators into different temperaments, like you can see how those unify tunings. And like a lot of people are already thinking like this anyway. The thing that hasn't been happening as much is like finding a way to unify the temperament thinking and the chord notation, and like how we talk about the chords. And it's not that people haven't been talking about chords this way. They have, but they just haven't like come up with a specific label and gone, oh, let's just label it that because of the temperament. So that I think is like is the interesting thing about that. But to me, it feels like a logical progression. Cue the XKCD meme about inventing a new standard. Oh yeah, no, yeah, but that's the thing. We don't have a standard for notating microtonal chords except kite notation. We have that, so if you want to use that. I don't fault anyone here. I don't fault anyone for using it because at least it works, you know. At least we have something that works. What am I doing today? I kind of want to play some instrument. So I could record vocals, I guess. But I don't want to do that. I could also work on that. Those crazy sounds. I don't know, I haven't played much instrument the last couple of days. Alright. Work on that one song. I'm just gonna noodle around for a minute. I'm trying to find like some really nice like open voicings. Stuff that's hard to do on piano, but it's easy to do on the instrument. Oh yeah, one thing I've been doing that I've liked is on the 4 chord, doing like a super Pythagorean Lydian, but then resolving to nice, like a super nice on the 1. So like your 4 chord is like super Pythagorean Lydian. Your 1 chord is super nice. Which I kind of did in this song that I wrote, but I wasn't thinking about it. That's super Pyth. Actually, it's just all super Pyth. Except for this funny chord. But then it goes to actually that's super major with a major 7. So I guess I don't do that in that song at all. Never mind. But yeah, you can go from like this. Yeah, I really like this. major with a major 7. I kind of like throwing the super major 7 on the top. It kind of sounds resolved. Try like a 2-5-1 with that. That's cool. I had this voicing of the 5 chord, putting the 3rd on the bottom. So yeah, and then the major, super major is nice too. So C major, super major 7. That's C, super major, major 7, sharp 11, and then C major, super major 7, super 6. Dude, my pedals squeaking. What's this? It's a sub minor with a major 6 and a 4. So that's actually like a F super major with a minor 7. F super major minor 7. But in 3rd inversion. No, 2nd inversion. And that's adding the super 6. That one's pretty. So that's I had a weird thought too, which was like, if you're in a different tuning with like a weird 5th, like if a 5th is like perfect, actually I kind of want to explore this. So like, if you're, I don't know what a good way to do it is though, because I feel like we kind of need like a good timbre. Like if you have a 5th, maybe on here I can get a better timbre. We'll play with that in a second. But like, okay. If you're at 7 out of 12, and then 13 out of 22, and then where's some other 5ths? So what's 19's 5th? Isn't it like 11? Yeah, and then what's 17's 5th? It's 10 maybe, or something. I'll just try 10. Yeah, and then I don't want to do any that are like too crazy. I guess I can do 23s. 23s, 20, it's 13, right? One of them is. So what's 31's fifth is 3. It's not 13. Fuck off. That's the fourth. Plus 4 plus 13 plus 5 is 18. Is it 18? Yes. Okay. So that's good enough. So all these different fifths. This would be better to just do in here. Here, let me just do like this. Trying to find out like what is. Did I get rid of that? So what was it? It was a 7 out of 12. What was it? 19? I think 23 is just too different. What was 19? 31's was 18. I could possibly add 27. That one might be. What would 27's be? 16. Okay, so maybe I should. There we go. Let's change the sound. So this is 19, 31, 12, 17, 22, 27. So you can hear them all beat, but like 12 is obviously the slowest. So as they like beat, as they get flat or sharp, they do the same thing. They like they beat faster as they get like more sharp and more flat. Actually, let's hear a 3/2 as well. It's no beating. So that's 19. It's 22. No, that's 17. 22. 27. Oops. I do new piano tech. Yeah, maybe I should just make it. Let's make it file. Sonic. Just gonna control this with Sonic. I'm gonna want to hear like some stacked fifths. Some different tunings, different ways I could do this. Okay, I need to record the audio though. Otherwise I have to do this over and over again. I'm gonna do some markers too. 12. So let's just record the info. Well, I guess I gotta record both. Send. Send it over right here. Just disable the master record. Nope, wrong button. For the output. Alright, that should work. Alright, good enough. And then let's do should do these in order. Should be 19. Just move this stuff around later. So 19. Can you move markers? Yes. Easy. Okay. I don't need this. I just need sonic. 19. Oh man, I don't have the freaking notes. I don't feel like making freaking separate files for all these, dude. I know how I could do this. I don't feel like doing this. It's just too much work just to freaking. Okay, there's a couple ways I can do this. One, I could put everything on one Scala file. At least give me something. Something to compare these with. Checked. Uh-huh. Shouldn't be in an order. Don't piss me off. Better not have done anything. It doesn't matter what tune I use as long as I find the right note. Why did it rearrange my notes for me, dude? I did not want that. Man, that's annoying. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? It's not doing what I want it to do. Fuck. I loaded the keyboard mapping, man. What the hell? It doesn't care. Forget it. Forget it. Man, how do I get the fucking shit to work the way I want it to, man? How do I get this to work the way I want it to? In 19, it looks like G. Seventeen looks like A, G sharp, I guess. What about in 22? It's like F sharp. So. This doesn't look like it goes okay anymore. Let me write these down. This is annoying. Oh yeah, CGD. Sure. I think that was right. Let's go back to 17. So, can't remember. I was just looking at it. Sharp, 22. On the same note. Oh shit. At 36. I mean, at 26, I guess. Correct. Should be 3, 2. Might as well just recorded all these. Purple. Orange F. That's good enough. So. Shit up again. Wait. Actually, start flat. We got 26, right? 26, 19. Something like that. So let's do this. let's see, marker shortcut. Purple F. That was right. And then, let's delete this. And okay. Alright, so now I have all these. Let's listen to these. Oops. Come on, keep them there. Sounds. Just keep that record arm. Just mute that one and then turn the master back on here. Actually, I'll just put my track. Fine. Okay, so. On the piano timbre, you don't really hear the beating that much, but they do sound different. So I feel like the 12 fifth is the most in tune. It kind of feels like more matter of fact. Um, and then on the low end, they feel more like pensive or something, or like shy, or I don't know how you put it. And then on the sharp end, they tend to sound a little more like, I guess, excited and like even confident or something, especially on the low end, like 17 does to me. I don't know why this 22 one is making me think um, like curious, but like not resolute, but like maybe, I don't know. I guess a mixture of curious and confident. I don't know. It's like super bright. That's all I think on that. It's not necessarily bad though. It doesn't really sound dissonant with this timbre. It's definitely like kind of shimmery once you get here. Definitely like feels like something that's like bubbling up on the edges or something. Or maybe edgy is a good word for it. Maybe it's a little edgy. I don't necessarily want to say excited, but maybe like slightly manic or something. I don't know. And then, yeah, this one almost feels despondent. I guess there's like a, I guess there's like a depression mania spectrum with the fifths or something. Might be projecting. I feel like 31 is soft, but not depressed, but soft. Oh, I guess there is some harshness to it. I'm trying to like compare the attitude, basically, like the personality of the fifths, and like, see if I can't glean some kind of like emotional information from like these subtle differences in the tuning of the fifth. Like 12. The 12 sounds like the clearest and most resolute. Maybe I should write this random bullshit garbage down. It's like if I put these on a spectrum, goes 26, 19, 31, 12, 17, 22, 27. It's like despondent. 31 is like kind of gentle, I guess, or soft. Clear. 17 is more hopeful, confident. 22 is like curious, I guess unperturbed or something. 27 is like kind of edgy, right? Hint of mania. That's kind of shimmery. Let's go back to 19. That's the one I didn't know. I do, it's tough. Like reflective. I want to say like self-aware. Weird thing to say. I wish I had more like happy, sad, blah 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 basic emotions, but it's very subtle stuff, so I don't know. Anyway, just like trying to see if there's some, if you just like look at the fifth, because like a fifth is like such a pure sound. You know, it's kind of like it's like structural harmony, but you know, like if you add a fifth to a chord, it doesn't tend to change the emotion so much. It maybe reinforces it, but doesn't really, it's not gonna, adding the fifth to a minor third isn't gonna make it sound less sad, you know. If anything, it's just gonna like strengthen that. Or maybe add, I don't know, maybe it adds power, I guess. Slightly different sort of thing, but as the fifth gets sharper or flatter, though, it should have like, could have slightly different emotional connotations. So like in 12, the fifth is almost perfectly in tune. So I wonder how much that contributes to that kind of purity of the fifth. Although the fifth is still a relatively pure tone in all of these tunings, it is more out of tune in all these other tunings. And like 27, it's like noticeably, and 22, in fact, it's noticeably warbly. Same with 26. So yeah, I wonder what contribution that makes in a just a basic emotional way. The thing is though, like if you're just comparing the sounds to each other, if you just like sharpen or flatten any like tone, it's gonna kind of move it in a certain way emotionally, just in reference to the other tones. So it's kind of hard to compare them in like any way that even resembles objectivity. I mean, but then again, how are you gonna do that when you're just like trying to make subjective statements about the aesthetic properties of like these slightly differently tuned intervals? All right. Anyway, I think that's gonna be it for me for tonight. I will be back tomorrow. So see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for checking out the stream.